and thank you all for joining me as well. This is Return to Learn Instructional Tools and Strategies. I am Chrissy Riebert, VP of Global Instructional Solutions with Tech. I am going to leave time at the end for questions. However, if you think of something after or it doesn't get answered during our time here, my email is on the screen, chrissyriebert@teq.com. Additionally, if you want extra resources or you want additional information on what we talk about today, feel free to email me and I'll be sure to get that over to you. And the reason I really wanted to do this session is because the global pandemic has unlocked innovation in K-12 instruction. And the steady pace of technology adoption over this past year has ramped up significantly. Educators were challenged to transition from their in-class instruction to either remote or hybrid, and EdTech clearly played a major role in that. And so within this session, I want to talk about what we learned, what the surveys and the research has showed us, what we should be thinking about as we get ready for going back into brick and mortar, or even if we're going to continue on with a hybrid. Returning to the classroom, what instructional strategies have we used over the last year that we want to make sure that we continue to use? What types of technology did we implement that was really beneficial to not only us, our students, but even our parents as well? The different types of communication, whether it was through news channels or it was social media. How do we address that gaps in learning? And then really, how do we support our teachers? But we're continue to support our teachers with professional development and learning. In all the research that I've been doing and the surveys that I've been reading about, there have been common pain points and common priorities that districts and admin really want to address when they are thinking about the return to learn. So you're going to hear a lot about social and emotional learning, student and parent engagement and communication, that assessment, and of course, like I said before, the professional learning and the different options that we can talk about. Before I do that, I actually want to hear from you. So I'm going to start a Shoutout Out activity. I am working in my Smart Learning Suite online software. I'd like you to go to hellosmart.com, enter my class ID 32942, and then join as a guest. You're going to see that you have the ability to answer two different questions. I want to know, what have you learned? And what challenges have you faced? So I'll leave that on for a moment. hellosmart.com, enter class ID 32942. I see that you're starting to connect, and join as a guest. And Nina, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat as we get students, as we get our attendees to sign in, that would be great. I see I have 4 connected right now. So I want you to tell me what you learned during this pandemic and what was your biggest challenge that you faced? All right, I'm going to have Nina put it in the chat. See, we still have some joining. Getting adequate training. Yep, that's been a big concern. So I know a lot of people kind of learned on their own. It was a crash course, but we're going to talk about that in today's session. Anybody else? What did you learn and what was the biggest challenge you faced? Not enough time, trying to juggle too much, everyone having the technology they needed. Learning new technology, students knowing about the technology. How can we accomplish more than we initially thought? I learned that we are adaptable. That's great. A lot about technology. So I'm glad you're all talking about technology, balancing work and family. That was a big one. So I think we all are struggling with that. How to connect old lessons to new techniques. That's great. Feeling unprepared. Ensuring all students understand lessons. Time is precious, and how to best use it in new normal. I love that. Technology can be a blessing and a curse. 100% agree with you. Yesterday's session, our technology decided to turn off on us. So I totally understand that. Determining what teachers needed and how to provide it in a timely fashion. Great. Creating spaces that are conducive to focused work. Thank you guys so much for sharing. This is fantastic. I learned about many new technological tools. Technology seems to be a focus here, which I'm really good because that's what we're going to talk about. What do we want to keep in our new normal and how we can assist our educators in moving forward? And what strategies do we want to think about, especially when we do our return to learn? All right, so I'm going to go on to the next page for a moment. All right, so let's think about what we learned. And I broke it down into different categories. So what we learned, according to the research and the surveys, is when remote and hybrid became the new normal, current approaches to the classroom were aimed to replicate to what they were doing in person instruction. And according to Breaking the Mold from the Christensen Institute, and I have a copy of that and happy to share that with you, 78% of teachers said they used their current curriculum, their current content, and tried to adapt it in synchronous teaching when they went to remote or hybrid. Some of them may have used some curated materials from websites, and some even just kind of created their own. But I think we can all agree one thing moving forward is we need to have both synchronous and asynchronous. Now, when it came to student devices, most students went one-to-one. I know that was a difficulty, and I know connectivity was a concern for quite a few as well. But learning management systems became the way to deliver our e-learning materials. Student information systems were used for that student data, and teachers gravitated towards conferencing like Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, even Screencastify, and this is how they created their virtual classrooms. Even new forms, like we said earlier, in communication. I know some of the school districts around me used even the local TV stations to work with their families in getting information out. When we think about the shifts and the perceptions of technology in the classroom and what we learned over the last year and what we want to implement in this year, we really want to think about, especially with the gaps in learning, what skills do we want to prepare our students so that they are ready for the future? And how do we go about that? Well, when you think about preparing your students for return to learn, think about the new protocols you want to put in place. Think about where the students are coming from. So many students from all socioeconomic backgrounds have struggled with their mental and their social health during this time. So we really want to think about the new protocols we're putting in place. Where have these students come from? What types of readiness do we have for them? Looking at even so much as their mental well-being. So those common aspects that the research showed was really important, really stemmed from the 5 core competence of social and emotional learning. So when you're thinking about preparing your students to go back into the classroom, you want to think about setting the groundwork for students-centered or more of student engagement. So you want to think about giving students more choice. Just like even in in our SLS online, we have the ability to give the students the choice of the different activities or the ways that they learn best. Start with your emotional check-ins. In the younger grades, you can do so much as mood meters. In the older grades, you can have things like memes, have students create memes. Make sure that you are reestablishing those routines. They've been out of school for so long. Have students really count and work on that social interaction by doing peer-to-peer. Find ways that they can collaborate, even if they're in a socially distanced situation. One of the questions yesterday came up with, how can we have our students collaborate if they're 6 feet apart? Or what if I still have some students at home? Well, with SLS Online, you can create workspaces where students can actually be working together at the same time, but from their different devices and different places. Make sure you're giving the students the ability to have those brain breaks. Remember, coming back to the classroom is going to be a lot different than what they've been doing over the last year. And then again, really work on that collaborative and cooperative learning. So what kinds of resources could we do or use that will help us with this? Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a website that allows teachers to create grids to facilitate video discussions. These grids are like message boards where teachers can pose questions or topics and students can post video responses. Smart Learning Suite Online, you have the ability, like I said, to create mood meters. They have quite a few pre-made templates you can quickly insert, and you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can use any of your Google resources, your PowerPoint presentations, and even your PDFs. Things like Class Dojo, free school communication platforms that teachers and students and families can use to kind of build that community. So again, working on that social piece. Google Drawings, virtual cozy corners and me spaces. And Nina, if you can take that website and put it into the chat. These are really good for students to take those brain breaks, or if coming in after like a recess time, or just needing to relax themselves. And if you want to learn more on how to create these, otis.com.tech.com is our online professional learning. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but we can show you how to create these cozy corners, these me spaces. So these are just a couple of resources that will really help you when you are focusing on those SEL components. So when we think about returning to learn and actually getting the students back into the classroom, what we learned over the past year and what the studies and the surveys have showed was that the new strategies that we should be implementing, that a lot of us implemented over the past year, is the active learning. We really want to focus on student-centered. So it's doubtful that teachers are going to say that they prefer the remote instruction, but one benefit is that they did get a better understanding of different approaches and applications that are most effective for engaging our students and maintaining that progress. So look for problem-based or project-based learning opportunities. Really hone in on that cooperative and collaborative work. Look for the technology enhanced learning, some of these resources that we're talking about. Make sure that you continue to implement them in your brick and mortar setting. Synchronous is fantastic for our students and we know they need it, but so is asynchronous. Think about the flipped classroom approach, sending videos home for students to review, and then making classroom more of that deeper and engaging piece of that lesson. When you are getting ready to return to the classroom, think about students as no longer just being the receptors of, but really allowing them for that active participation. And here's some resources like Edpuzzle, Seesaw, Flipgrid that we talked about, Bitmojis, and Jamboard. The Edpuzzle, just for example, allows our teachers to customize videos with embedded questions. This will help us to really individualize that learning. So as you're getting ready to go back into the classroom, think about that blended learning methodology. And don't forget about our parents. Keep them just as engaged as they were in the remote and hybrid. A lot of our parents, and what you guys even said in the Shoutout Out activity, is the struggle with learning new technology, not just from teachers and parents and students. But one of the things that we did at Tech was to create on our otis.tech.com, which is our professional learning platform, and Nina's going to put that in the chat, please. There is a parent portal as well. Now, these are not like courses you would see for your educators. These are short, brief, really helping the parents to understand the technology that the students are using, maybe how to hand in assignments, but these are really quick and they've been extremely helpful. And we developed it because it was one of the biggest asks, is how do we assist our parents? It'll help them with that knowledge. and that and really help them understand what their students have been using in the classroom all along. I know now parents have worn many different hats. Not only are you guys all juggling how to manage the time, but so are our parents. So this portal may be something that would be extremely helpful for them in the transition, not only from last year, but even going back into school. Keep with those different and diverse methods of communication. Whether you're using your YouTube, or whether you're doing the virtual check-ins, or whether you're using the social media, continue with the varied ways to communicate with your parents. And when we think about the gaps in learning and the different forms of assessment and how we've even assessed our students over this past year, I know it's probably a big concern, but think about using a varied forms of assessment. No more paper. Use the technology and the digital assessments. Use the video. Have parents even videoing the work that their students have done and send it in to you. Think of Quizlet, Kahoot, Socrative, or even the smart formative assessments, where you are making sure that you are able to personalize the learning and close those gaps that may have happened over the last year. No more paper. Let's make it interesting and fun and keep with those formative assessments so we continue to make sure that there's growth moving forward with our students. And then the last thing I really want to talk about, and I think this is probably the most important, 85% of teachers said they did not feel like they were adequately prepared or had the professional development or training that was needed to go remote or hybrid or even to return. Now, a lot of them did use the education apps and the different websites and the teacher to teacher and the online resources. But we want to continue to support our teachers and continue even if they're going to be in that hybrid or in the brick and mortar. And one way that you can do this is our professional development platform. And Nina put otis.tech.com. We have over 700 courses that will not only help train your teachers on the technology, but our courses will actually give you really good examples of how to infuse that technology into your everyday teaching and learning in any situation, whether it is hybrid, whether it is remote, or whether you're going back into the brick and mortar. Continue to support our educators. We also, on that platform, in addition to our parent portals, but we also have training and professional learning on for admins as well. We have skill building on there. So if you just want short, quick videos. And then we also have what's called our Ask Otis. And Ask Otis allows anybody who's using the platform from 8 to 5 in Eastern Standard Time to ask a question, to chat with one of our certified educators, or even to do email time or even plan a time during your prep time to talk with one of our educators. Let's make sure that during all of this, we are really paying attention to the needs of the most important, and that is our parents, our admin, and then of course our educators. They're driving the success of our future and our students. So I've done a lot of talking, and now I want to address any questions you may have.
Chrissy, one question just popped up in the chat box.
Yes.
Rodwell wants to know if the training is free.
So we do have some free courses on that Otis platform, and you're welcome to go on and take a look at that. And then some of the other ones are for fee. Thank you for asking. Any other questions, Nina, that have come up?
It wasn't a question, but it was a statement of being basically, overworked.
Yes.
Someone had said, I'm so happy to think we will take all the new instructional strategies, technology, and student parent communication forward with us from now on. But I'm so fearful that the expectation is that we will now have to continue to work 100 hours a week. It was acceptable barely since we were in crisis mode, but I do not want to continue working at this level of output once things return to normal.
So I agree with you 100%. And the one thing that I have found is that professional learning piece is really key to that because it can help you streamline. It can help you keep yourself and your students better on task. And within even our platform and even online, if some of that the resources that I've shared with you guys, they have a lot that's already pre-made. So if you're struggling with that overworked feeling and you want even mentoring, so with the professional learning even that we offer is we can mentor in the classroom. Like professional learning does not just have to be going on to our synchronous or asynchronous platform. Maybe you want us to come in and mentor and have somebody in the classroom with you, or even do some virtual coaching, which can help you really manage that time, teach you some of these new tasks, and even help you to develop some of those lessons so that you can implement them even and these new instructional strategies. So think about that professional learning piece and really see if there's a way that we can assist you, whether, like I said, it's the mentoring in the classroom, it's the virtual PD, or even if it's the synchronous and or asynchronous courses. I hope that helps. Any other questions, Nina?
None that I've seen so far, but I did want to let you all know, if you want to access the free courses that are in Otis, if you go to otis.tech.com, and then if you go to the top right of the page, you'll see free courses. There you can select if you are a teacher, an administrator, or a parent, and all of the classes that are available to you for free will pop up. So make sure to check those out. There's some really great things on there.
And if you want additional information or you want me to send you any of those resources, feel free to email me. I'm happy to help. I'm pretty quick to get back to you. I'll give it another minute, Nina. I really appreciate you guys joining me today. I know it has been an overwhelming time. I know there is a lot on your plates, and I, for one, as a parent, am extremely grateful and thankful to all of you because I know in this crisis, you all basically were the forefront in driving the success that even these students have had over this pandemic. So I, for one, thank you. I hope these tools and strategies will be helpful to you moving forward. And like I said, if you want any additional or you have specific student populations that you want to address, feel free to email me. I have my undergrad in elementary education and I have a master's in special education. So always here to help. Thanks again for joining me. Bye.